Chapter 5. The phrase autoerotic asphyxiation hung in the air, so to speak. "I don't know what that is," Cynthia said. Cleary and Jenkins were stone-faced. I had no idea what information they had, but there must have been something about the autopsy or the crime scene that led them to this conclusion. They wouldn't raise this casually. Homicide cops tend to take the determination of cause of death very seriously. I was reviewing what I remembered about the body and the apartment, trying to understand the cop's train of thought when Cynthia spoke again. "I said I don't know what that is. Somebody tell me what's going on." I waited for the cops to explain themselves. Jenkins simply leaned against the wall with an expression of distaste. Cleary continued to look uncomfortable. He held the folder angled away so I couldn't see the contents and flipped a page. "What time did you say you two left for dinner last night?" I picked Cynthia up around 7:30. "And where did you go?" "We went to Cassie's on Amsterdam. We walked, got there about 8 o'clock. "And after that, you came straight back to the apartment?" "Yes." "Did you see anyone you know at either place?" "Why?" "It will make it easier to confirm." "I know that. I mean, why are you trying to figure out where we were?" Then it dawned on me, and I realized why they were treating us with such disdain. Wait a minute. You guys think we sanitized the scene? That's ridiculous. Jenkins spoke up. "You brought it up, counselor, not us, and I think it's really interesting that you're familiar with the concept." "I'm a smart guy," I said. "You sure are." Cynthia interrupted. "Hey, what the hell is everyone talking about? What is this auto whatchamacallit? Didn't Alex just kill himself?" "I'll explain in a minute, Sin. Are you guys done?" "You didn't answer the question," Jenkins said. "Did you see anyone you know?" "I can't believe you're putting her through this." I tried to swallow my anger. Better to just give them what they wanted so I could get Cynthia out of there. "They know me at Cassie's. I eat there all the time, so anyone will be able to tell you we were there. And I spoke with the manager at one point. His name is Carter." "Okay," Cleary said, starting to rise. "After we check it out, we'll get back to both of you." He picked up the folder and Jenkins spoke. "If those times don't check out, counselor, you might consider getting a lawyer of your own." "What are you driving at, officer?" Jenkins came off the wall and leaned in towards me, putting both of his hands flat on the table. "When it's the family, I try to be sympathetic, but as a general rule," he leaned in closer, "I don't like anyone fucking around with my crime scene." He gave me what was supposed to be a hard look. It was pretty good. Then he strutted out of the room. From the doorway, Cleary turned back to us. "We've notified Alex's parents of his death. That's required. They'll probably contact you about what they want you to do with his stuff. I don't think we have any further need for it, but if I were you, I wouldn't touch it until you hear from them," he said, and left. I sat there, stunned, fighting the urge to follow them and make threats I couldn't make good on. They were doing their job, and while their methods were seriously curtailed by trivialities like the Constitution, they were given wide latitude as far as their theories and manners were concerned. "Will you tell me what the hell just happened?" Cynthia asked. "Let's get out of here first," I said. On the stairs down to the lobby were 3 black teenagers wearing handcuffs, T-shirts, immense parkas, and radically oversized jeans that stayed up in angry defiance of gravity. Plaid boxer shorts covered what would otherwise have been their exposed buttocks. Their outfits were every bit as much a uniform as those worn by the cops who escorted them, and everyone in the group wore an identical expression of sullen boredom, all partners in a grim marathon dance competition, not enjoying the steps, but unwilling to show weakness by quitting. We stood to the side to let them pass, then hurried through the lobby and out into the fresh air. What the hell was that all about?" Cynthia asked. I didn't answer, but walked quickly west towards 9th Avenue. I needed to calm myself down, to try to figure it out for myself so I could explain it to her. Cynthia trotted to keep up. "Zach, what the hell was that all about?" she asked again. Again, I didn't answer. I was enraged, almost incapable of speech. Capricious authority has always had that effect on me. I've never known what to do with those feelings except allow them time to fade. At the corner, with Cynthia still a couple of paces behind, I turned north on Ninth Avenue and crossed 54th Street. Partway up the block, a Siamese standpipe was sticking out of a building next to a laundromat. I stopped and sat on it. Cynthia came up beside me. She must have sensed my mood because she waited silently, her arms crossed. I could feel a pulse in my temple, and I tried to regulate my breathing to bring my temper under control. Finally, I looked up at her. "Okay," I said, "let me try to explain this. Apparently, if you deprive your brain of oxygen during sex, you can increase the intensity of your orgasm. Some people, like their partners, to strangle them a little bit. Other people devise ways to strangle themselves during masturbation. That's autoerotic asphyxiation. They don't mean to kill themselves, just cut off the oxygen to their brains a little, maybe get themselves to the edge of passing out. But sometimes people screw up and accidentally strangle themselves. It looks like the police think maybe that's what happened to Alex." "That's disgusting." I nodded, but didn't say anything. I wasn't sure what she was referring to. The peculiar sexual practice, the fact that the police thought that's what had happened, or maybe the fact that I knew anything about it. This was a hell of a way to get to know a girl. "Why on earth would they think that?" she asked. "I don't know. It doesn't make any sense." "It does to them," I said. "There's something they know that we don't, and it's led them to think this. They wouldn't just pull this out of a hat and accuse us." "What do you mean accuse us? What did they accuse us of? I didn't understand any of it. What are you so angry about? What are they so angry about?" "They think we cleaned up the crime scene." "What do you mean?" "One of the reasons it's hard for the cops to know if they've got a case of accidental death by autoerotic asphyxiation is that sometimes relatives or friends, who are usually the ones to find the body, clean up the scene to hide the way the person died. The suicide can be embarrassing to a family, but to a lot of people, AEA is even more embarrassing, so they try to make the death look like a regular suicide. Or maybe since they probably don't know any better, they think it was a suicide and they just try to clean up the sexual aspect of it to avoid further embarrassment." "But we weren't there. We didn't touch anything. Why do they think we did?" "I don't know." "Why do they think Alex died while he was doing this thing?" "I don't know." "Why did you get so angry?" I didn't want to give her the long answer, so I gave her the short one. "It's a very, very serious thing to be accused of, tampering with a crime scene. I could lose my license." "But you don't practice anymore." "I still don't want to lose it." She nodded and gnawed on her lower lip, standing over me. I remained seated on the standpipe. People hurried past and glanced at us as if we were in the midst of a lover's quarrel. Had we been homeless, talking to ourselves, or potentially dangerous, we would have been ignored. But Mrs. Soap Opera? Never. "Well," she said, "where do we go from here?" I wanted to ask, "What do you mean, we?" But I felt stuck now that I had gotten myself into this. "I don't think we have anything to worry about. I can't believe I'm even saying these words, but our alibis will check out. The autopsy should give them a pretty clear indication of the time of death. They'll check with Carter, and then they'll know where we were and when." "So then what?" "I don't know. There's something about the crime scene." I caught myself. "I'm sorry, your apartment, or maybe about Alex's body that's making them think there's something hinky about this. Also, you telling them there's no way he killed himself adds fuel to the fire. Unless we find out what they're thinking, what information they have, there's no way for us to know what's going on. Unfortunately, you're not next of kin, and neither of us is charged with anything, so we don't have any standing to get any information." "What do you mean?" "I mean, if either of us was formally charged with anything related to this, then we'd have access to information so we could prepare a defense. As it is, if they don't charge us with tampering, they don't have to tell us anything." So we just do nothing? I shrugged. There's nothing for us to do. Alex is dead. Accident or suicide, it doesn't change anything except to his memory. Even if the medical examiner rules it a death by misadventure, no one else will know anything about the sexual. Cynthia interrupted. What do you mean, death by misadventure? That's what they'll call it if he died of autoerotic asphyxiation. Oh. Anyway, he's not a public figure, so it's not going to get any play in the newspapers. As far as your friends are concerned, he'll have died however you tell them he died. And since we know where we were when it happened, and there are plenty of people to back us up, today was probably the end of our trouble with the cops. Any questions they have about whether it was a suicide or this other thing will probably go unanswered. So what if there are irregularities? They happen all the time. So that's it? That's the end of Alex? When she looked at me with tears brimming in her eyes, I realized that in some way, dealing with the police and the unanswered questions was a way for her to keep Alex alive, even as it denied her any closure. She was still scrambling for a way to process these events. I thought of something that might help. Do you know how to get in touch with his parents? I asked. I don't want to talk to them, she spat. They never gave a shit about him. You're going to have to talk to them. You need their permission to deal with his belongings. Also, if it's true that they didn't give a shit about him, then maybe they'll let you claim his body. There are funeral arrangements to be made, all of those details, and maybe you want to handle that rather than having his parents do it. That way, at least it's being taken care of by someone who loved him. Cynthia nodded, hugging herself. Her hair had been blown over one eye, and she shook her head to toss it back into place. A tear escaped and ran down her cheek. She swiped at it with the back of her hand. Great. Now I have to deal with those assholes. I don't have time for this. She stood and looked away up the street. I'm going away, she said suddenly. What do you mean? I asked, confused by the non sequitur. Where are you going? My agent called this morning before I left for the police station. I got a job at a theater in Springfield. Congratulations, I said, nonplussed. When do you leave? Rehearsals start tomorrow, so I'm supposed to get up there today or tonight. Short notice, I said. They had the role cast already, but the actor got another part, something better, so she backed out. An ancient man with an even older dog hobbled past. I don't know what to do, she said. I thought, uh-oh, but I didn't say anything. What do you think I should do? She asked. What do you want to do? I need to take this part. I have to take this part. He would have wanted me to take this part. I'm sure that's true, I said, but you also have to deal with this so you can put it behind you. That's going to take some time. Maybe getting away is the best thing for me right now. She had already made up her mind. Do you think you'll be in any shape to work? I'll have something to focus on, she said, and I won't have to go back to the apartment and look at his stuff all the time. That's true, I said. Then maybe you should get in touch with his folks before you go, just to ask them what they want done with his stuff in the meantime. She nodded. Could you do me a favor? Here it comes, I thought. Sure, I said. Could you come back to my place with me? Just be there while I pack. I'm pretty creeped out about going back in there. Sure, that's understandable. Could I give you an extra set of keys to my place so if they need to get in there or anything while I'm gone, the cops or his family or whoever, you could be there? I don't want them crawling around in there without someone to keep an eye on things. Sure, I stood. Could you sort of coordinate that for me while I'm gone? She asked as we headed south back towards her apartment. Would you mind? Not at all, I said. I wondered how much I was going to do for this beautiful woman I hardly knew. As we walked, she took my arm, and I thought to myself, well, you'll probably do a lot more than you should. And that is the end of chapter 5. To get back to the matter at hand, subscribe to this channel and go to my website, MatthewArkin.com, and subscribe to my newsletter if you want to get updates on the YouTube videos and also other things that I write and post from time to time in my blog, articles on acting and writing.